Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to, what to do in the middle game, because a lot of chess players, including me, that are not at the highest level of chess yet, really don't know what to do in the middle game. So I'm going to give you 3 starter tips on how to plan your middle game. So without further ado, let's get started. But first, subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos, and please hit the thumbs up button. It would be appreciated. Now let's get into it. Okay, so now you're white in this position, okay? And you decide to go for London. d4, d5, bishop f4. Okay, maybe not a London, but an accelerated London, which is basically the same thing. Knight f6, knight f3, e6, e3, c5, knight to b2, knight b to d2. I like to play this way, but this is not the point. So queen b6, rook to b1, okay, and bishop d6, bishop to g3, standoff, takes. Now this is what you need to know. So your opening should always transpose, or not transpose, but go into the middle game. So let's run through this again. And you should know your opening clear enough. You should know your system clear enough that you know what to do in the middle game. And in the middle game, after black castles, then we go attacking on the king side and try to get this king checkmated. He doesn't often castle on the queen side as there are no pawns. And this is why the London is very fearsome, and it's not safe for the king to stay in the center. So basically what I like to do against Londons or f4, I mean f5, but we're talking about openings. We're not supposed to do that. We're talking about middle games. So c3, knight to c6. I'm going to give some black some random moves, okay? Bishop to d3, queen e8, and knight 5, right? And you should know your theory. As I said, you should know your system well. Why am I doing knight e5? Why am I not doing this? Well, it's because, and you should know this, if you're a London player and you know it really well, then if you see e4 coming, then you have to plot this knight on that square immediately, as soon as the chance comes. You need to plant that knight on this e5 square, and you should also know to always delay castling. Even though the bishop comes to d3, we always castling, and most of the times we never really castle in the London system. So you should know your openings very well, and if you don't, then chances are your middle game is not gonna go well if you freestyle openings. But anyways, let's move on to our next tip. And we are playing white again, but this time we play e4. E4, e5, that's my best, Bobby Fischer. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5, Roy Lopez, a6, Morphy defense. So usually you see this, right? Well, sometimes you give away the bishop pair in the middle games. And the bishop pair is really important in the middle game. it is a really important factor in the middle game. Giving away your bishop. Well, why do you give away your bishop? For a knight. Why do you do this? Well, most reasons is it just weakens this pawn. And they have to defend it with the whole army. And I'm not saying that after d takes c6, which black should do, and you've ruined his pawn structure, right? Now his king is kind of exposed. Now you should never do this, because this can happen, or this, and that just double attacks your pawns, right? And yeah, before doing anything like that, knight c3. Now that does threaten. Now you could take, and now after this, you could also do this, and it's not really a problem, because if takes, then black kind of lost the queen, but not at the same time. But I mean, this idea sometimes does work, but not always, right? I just realized that the bishop can come here, but you can just trap the queen and do a discover attack, so it's pretty good. Okay, but anyways, bishop to d6 and h3. Now, the most important thing to consider when you're trading a pair of a bishop for a knight is what color bishop did you trade off? Well, in this case, we traded off the light square bishop. Now, what do you do when you trade off a light square bishop? You put your pawns on light squares. Now, if he tries to get some mobility, he wants to come here, he wants to prevent us from castling, he probably wants to trade off this bad bishop off. We're not going to accept it, because it kind of gives him an open file and some possibilities open, but that's just, it's just a little far ahead. But yeah, h3, bishop t6. Now what do? We do d3, not allowing, and we might as well put all of our pawns on light squares, because what good is an enemy light square if all the other light squares are occupied? Because literally every single other light square is occupied by the white pieces. That is even some on black's territory, which are indirectly defended. Because see this, well, yeah, do you see any possible route without this pawn capturing it? And do you see any good route to go here and trade it off? Do you see? The only two good squares, only two squares that this bishop can move to is the light squares. These two light squares. That's it. That's how poor this bishop is. That's how sad he is. Because all our pawns are occupying all the light squares, which is much more greater than a light square bishop. Because let's say you had a bishop that automatically controlled every single light square on the board. That would be crazy. And also, if that was a rule, then this king would be in check already. As well as your king. Alright? But yeah. Black goes first, and it would just be, and actually it would just be infinite moves of check, and it would be checkmate from the start, because he cannot move here, anywhere, because those are all squares of what they're occupied. But we were going into some different topic there, but that is another tip. That is another thing you should consider, because I see a lot of people trading off their bishops for knights, and to be honest, bishops are better than a pair of knights. A pair of bishops versus a pair of knights, a pair of bishops would probably win this with correct play, of course, right? We're not all superhumans, right? Because knights are the trickiest and they can fork, but yeah. So moving on to our next tip, we're already into this fascinating middle game, which again came from London. And another thing that you should do in the middle game to help crush your opponent is making batteries that line up to the sky. So what pieces, where is it supposed to be attacking? You're correct, the king's side, because all the pieces are lined up ready to attack. Even right after this knight hops, right? After this knight goes here, it sacrifices the spot for the other knight. And yeah, and don't sleep on this bishop, and especially on this queen, because you're going to learn how to create a diagonal battery. So, queen to c2. That is just straight. And yeah, he can do that. Or, I mean, he has to block off losing a pawn and losing his shelter. So, it's not, I mean, he could actually try to do this, right? Which would be a massive mistake if you did this and this. This would be a massive mistake because you lose this bishop. You lose the bishop after g6. Okay, now the king can get weak after this. Okay, but still, you're kind of down a bishop, but the queen will take. But then again, the king is safe. It's not unprotected or anything, but rook to g8 was a master because of this obvious move, but black is, well, safe, but not the safest. But what could happen, but what I like to do is do bishop to b1. Why am I doing, why am I doing a move? I want to get the queen here, okay? Say b5 happens, okay? I don't know what black is trying to accomplish with that move. Just gave a random move. Queen to c2. Now you can see the battery has more firepower in it than a bishop in the front, because this actually does threaten mate. Because after this, it is mate. And a5, huge blunder. Bishop takes f6. Now, black should not take, because else he gets mated, and that would be pretty sad. So, but I just gave him this move for instructional purposes, and you can see why the queen in the front is the best order, even though it will take you a couple of moves. But yeah, if your opponent is behind and in the London, if you're black, please do not ever attack on the queen side. It is just too much guarded. Don't attack on the king side. Your king is not safe. What instead you should do is kind of play a flank opening against the London. Because that messes up the London style, right? I mean, King's Indian, I'm not too sure that you would play that, but again, it is your opening, but you should know that opening very well. And opening transforms into your winning middle game. So those are the 3 biggest tips that I'm going to give you, and I hope you like these tips. And please make sure, once again, you subscribe and share with your friends, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos, and please give a thumbs up because it would be very appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.